Melissa Crook here, guest designer for Bello's Designs. Today I'm going to be showing you I made this card I'm calling Fairy Love, featuring Lavinia stamps. I hope you enjoy it. Please like and leave a comment below. Subscribe to our channel for more fun and creative tutorials. Supplies needed to make this card are Quinn LAV 693, the Silhouette Foliage Lavinia LAV 683, Twisted Vine Set LAV 613, Fairy Charms LAV 688, Orchard Grass LAV 612, Wreath Flourish in Left and Right LAV 700 and 701. We'll be using Love from the Live the Life You Love stamp set LAV 410. Other supplies that we're going to use are the Cardio MajeMask framed heart set. We'll be using the stencil part, the frame, and the mask. We're also going to be using the Ivy stencil from Lavinia Stamps. We'll be using Distressed Oxide and Seedless Preserves, Picked Raspberry, and in Worn Lipstick. We'll be using Elements ink from Lavinia Stamps and Confetti. For stamping, we will use VersaFine Clair in Nocturne, VersaFine Clair Chianti, VersaFine Clair Glamorous, VersaFine Clair Purple Delight, VersaFine Clair Warm Breeze, and lastly VersaFine Clair in Rainforest. We'll be embossing, so we will need our VersaMark embossing stamp pad, and we'll be using Wow embossing glitter in Persian Indigo. You also need to use a 2-inch circle mask and just a piece of torn paper for masking. We'll use various tools. I used my Tonic Studios stamp platform that I didn't show, and 2 other acrylic stamping blocks. One is from Lavinia, one is by Cardio. You'll also need a water sprayer, a smoothie. I have a Lavinia stamp stencil brush, and some makeup style blending brushes. I have one for each of the colors, and I have a small one for black for ink on the ground. We'll be using various pens. This is a Signo white Uniball pen. And then Jelly Roll pens. This is the Stardust collection. And there is a purple, a blue, a red, or pink rather. You need a heat tool and your embossing gun. The card base I used was Multifarious card 5.5 by 5.5, and have mounted it onto a 6-inch square card. Okay, let's get started. Okay, using our 5.5-inch piece of Multifarious card with the large heart stencil, we're going to tape it down using some Sweet Poppy stencil tape that I forgot to mention in the supply list. But you just tape it down to secure it. And we're going to blend our background, starting with seedless preserves, and then we will blend in the picked raspberry and worn lipstick. Spritz the background with some water, not blotting right away, just kind of let it dry so you get that nice effect and some dimension to the card. I'm going to use my heat tool just to speed up the drying process a bit. If you dry the front and the back, it doesn't make it warp. And then we're going to go over the heart again with our blending brushes, not adding any more ink to the brushes, just giving it another little layer. Clean off the stencil using a paper towel. And now for the moon, we'll use the 2-inch circle mask and go around the mask with seedless preserves and the blending brush. You want to line it up just off center. Just add a very light amount of ink, starting on the mask and working your way onto the card. Okay, moving on. I have stamped Quinn using my stamp platform, and now we're stamping up the small foliage set. Excuse me, the silhouette foliage, the one that looks like the wildflower stamp. I stamped the grass part with a tropical rainforest and the top with the purple delight. Moving on to the orchard grass, we'll be stamping up using the Warm Breeze by VersaFine Clair. We'll do a first and a second generation stamp. And now we're using part of the Twisted Vine set, the one that looks more like the vine, and Stamp Up in Chianti. And we're just going to fill in around the heart. Do some in front and some behind Quinn. So it makes it look like she's sitting in a field of flowers. And now we're going to remove the stencil. The stencil tape comes off very easily. Just be a little careful. It just comes right off. And now we're going to use the Wreath Flourish. This is the left-hand sided one, and it fits perfectly around the top of the heart. We're going to ink that up in Chianti. And clean it off using a baby wipe so we can line up the other areas where we want the stamp. And using the other side, the right side of the Flourish wreath set, ink up in Chianti. Use the mask so you don't get the stamp too far to the inside. On the other side, we're going to line it up. This time I'm just going to use a piece of paper to mask it off. Just line it up where you like it. And then for the middle part that didn't quite get, I'm using the first part of the wreath set and just filling it in. I'm cleaning it off with a baby wipe in between stamping so I don't get residue on the card. After that's finished, I'm using the frame part to use as a mask. And using the Ivy stencil, we're going to ink up in the worn lipstick and very lightly go over it with a blending brush. I picked the Ivy stencil because the leaves look like hearts as well. Thought it matched nicely. And you can just move your stencil over to the other side. I'm going to use a piece of a paper towel just to keep my hands from getting inked up. And just go around the whole entire edge. Now moving on to the fairy charm, we're going to ink up in Glamorous. We're going to align the stamp with Quinn's hand and use a piece of paper as a mask, and that'll make it look like it's hanging from the wreath. We're going to stamp up 3 times on the right hand side and twice on the left hand side. The left hand side I'm going to do a second generation stamp. Okay, now we're going to add some highlights using the white Signo pen. And just the top of her hand. Using the Jelly Roll pens, I'm going over each color of ink with the same color as the gel pen. So purple on purple, blue on blue. On the Chianti, I used the pink. And I'm just dotting in right in the center of the flowers and on the tops of the grass. You can add here as much glitter as you like, or from the glitter pins. They give a nice effect. I'm using the clear jelly roll pin here on her wings, on the tips and on the inside. And in some of the round parts of her wings. I'm also going to use the other colors that would reflect from the colors of the landscape on her wings. In no specific order, just very random. And I'm using the clear jelly roll pin for some of the strands in her hair. And for the moon, I'm going to put my mask back in place. I'm going to use the yellow jelly roll pin and just go right around the edge of your stencil or your mask, and not to get it on the stamped areas. Then I just blend it out a little with my fingertip. And now we're going to emboss the word love from the Live the Life You Love set. So ink up with your VersaMark stamp pad. And then using the Wow embossing glitter in Persian Indigo, sprinkle a little amount on and tap off the excess. You can use a paintbrush or a sweeping brush to clean off any extra, and using your embossing heat gun, heat set the embossing glitter. And you can do this on the front as well as on the back. You can see all that nice shine from the glitters and from the embossing glitter. If you don't like the sparkles, you don't have to add it. Okay, and now we're going to just edge the card. I like to use a smoothie to do this. I'm using the confetti ink or the confetti color of Elements ink by Lavinia Stamps, and just going right around the edge with my smoothie. I just kind of push the card up as I'm going. Up with one hand, down with the other. Okay, and now we're going to mount our card to our card base. I'm just using a tape runner that I like to use. You can use glue or whatever fastener that you prefer. I have about 1/4 of an inch between the card and the base around the edge, so I don't need to mat it. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this card that I've made. Hope you will use some inspiration and give it a go. Thanks for watching.